features of Freestyle are going to be built on the foundation and the knowledge of the MOM software itself. We do have over 2,000 active clients, and I did list some of them over on the right. You can tell that, cheaper than dirt, they got a little bullet in their logo. Global Rebels, they do some clothing. Paddle Palace, in the sporting good world. Bag Lady, she has bags, accessories, and a little bit of clothing. And then up top you have sound, the sound guys. So the verticals are all over the board. We do everything for the size, color that helps, handle, different variations for clothing and even some of the food areas. So we'll show you some of the inventory configurations in a little bit. As far as QuickBooks goes, really it's about 2/3, if not more, of our clients use QuickBooks on a daily basis. And they'll use it either with the basic general ledger, where they just dump the chart of accounts over into QuickBooks and do their financial reporting, income statement, balance sheet on the QuickBooks side. And then a handful of others actually export the full transactional detail, and I'll show you what that looks like towards the end. We integrate with Pro, Premier, and Enterprise straight up through 2013. We just got a copy of 2014, and I assume it shouldn't be an issue, but we're going to go ahead and test that, and I'll make that public once we know for sure that there's no glitches there. So multi-channel operations, is essential to making sure that the product gets exposed on multiple levels. You can't, if you're a retail shop, if you have somebody who's just using a storefront, they can't really just keep doing that and maintaining and expecting their business to grow. If they're using a e-commerce site, they may need to have multiple e-commerce sites moving to be able to understand that, the more they advertise the product, the more they move it, the better it'll be for them to, increase sales and get a little more business going. You'll see in a little while we have a lot of the pre-built integration to things like Amazon, eBay, Magento. So with some of the other features like an open API and some basic import-export functions, they can use almost any e-commerce site that they'd like to. And a lot of the challenges for the retailers is how do they stand out? How do they market their product so that they're competitive with the other the other smaller merchants that are trying to grow and dip into newer and bigger markets. Some of that challenge is eBay and Amazon. Getting the word of mouth out there using one of those channels, albeit a little more expensive to use those with the monthly fee and per transaction percentages that those systems charge. Getting the product out to more people and growing the list of customers is critical to getting the business to grow. So social, using some public and social options are definitely a big way to help them grow. The storefront guys, they need to have a little more of a customer relationship, and that comes with some marketing. With our system, we have ways to re-engage the client, do some target marketing. Oh, I see that you bought a cell phone last month. Would you like to have a belt, a belt clip or a car charger? So the upsells and cross-sells, having those options available, is very important to keeping with the competition and the growing business online. Getting the orders out the door is one of the key functions that MOM, and Freestyle will help with, and that has to do with, the order being imported in. So from what we do, what we help your clients with is the automation. They either getting them to sell on an e-commerce site, or if they're selling on an e-commerce site, we help bring that order into the system. So we create templated import routines. Then we help them with the warehouse aspects to pick, pack, ship. So they might need some organization skills to sort how the picker is going to go through the warehouse, pick up the items that are going to be shipped at a later time. Building that integration to the shipping carriers, we have all the major ones, UPS, USPS, FedEx, all pre-built into our system. But if they have some custom shipping carrier or like a freight carrier, they can set up those rates and those systems, within MOM as well. So whatever comes in from the website can be imported into, whatever shipping method that comes in from the website can be imported into our system and uploaded to one of those carriers to, automate that process that they might be doing manually today. What we found is those 2/3 of our clients that use QuickBooks, probably a third of those were only using QuickBooks before they came to our system, and now they're using their e-commerce site, us as the hub to get the inventory up and down to that site, and then using us as the hub to feed that data over to QuickBooks. And what we found is some of those guys that were using QuickBooks before were patching things together. They're using an add-on shipping utility to QuickBooks. They're using an add-on utility to try to get the e-commerce orders down. And then the fulfillment, the middle work, to get the package, out the door, it was a little more difficult for some people than others. And, those that implemented MOM, were able to streamline the process and get some of these things a little more automated all the way through. Inventory challenges is always a tough topic, to help a client with. How many items do they have, of a unit? Where is it located in the warehouse? If you have a warehouse like that, looks like what's standing behind the guy right here, it can be quite difficult to pick an item, pick multiple items for an order if they're in one corner of the warehouse and another. Our system helps sort that out so that they can walk through efficiently, go down this aisle, pick up what they need, go down the next, pick up what they need, and then end up where, they need to be for the packing, packing the item out. If they accept returns, depending on the time frame, how's that managed? Does it return it back to inventory? Does it put it in a temporary holding spot if they need to inspect it before it's available for sale? Does it count it, as the amount of inventory that they have? Until they make a decision that they're going to trash it or resell it, they need to count that as an inventory item, and managing those returns and keeping an accurate count is important there as well. There's a lot of data intelligence around reordering product and how to set up what your replenishment levels are, and there's flags, whether they're in the MOM system or in a reporting tool external. There's a lot of different decision points that we help them analyze and see whether or not they want to use the suggested amounts or be able to create their own levels for purchasing product and reordering from their supplier. For some of the smaller guys that don't have a warehouse, if they have a retail store and they want to get up online, there is options for them to send their product out to some dropship warehouses where, if they sell an item, they send a dropship notification to the warehouse to say, a warehouse that's not owned by them, another third party, and ask them to ship the product. And they can then ship the product with the company's, your client's, brand name, logo, things like that on it, so it looks like it's coming from the merchant, but it's actually coming from a third-party, fulfillment center. So managing that drop ship, automating that connection between the two is a critical piece that, we like to, help with. And tracking that inventory, knowing how much you've sent, to them. Even in the case of Amazon, they have Fulfillment by Amazon as a service, and you can send a certain amount of units up to the Amazon system, and they'll do the shipping for you, for the merchant. Visibility across the channels is of course important. You want to know what did the customer buy. If you look at any individual customer's activity, you want to know if they're buying from what channels, when they bought it, tying this all into promotions. To know if you ran a promotion for 20% off in July, did that do better than a promotion for 10% off in January when the price was lower. You can compare the two, and track it, from a source perspective to know which campaigns are generating the most revenue and which, need to have a little bit more work. What can you offer to them next? So that's some of the target marketing that I spoke of earlier. You can track which products are your top sellers, which items are reaching a low level that you need to replenish because they're, a hot product at the moment. Tracking the sales and the cost trends is also important to manage. At what point are your promotions eating too much into, the profits, and do they have to scale back a little bit on which promotions or combining promotions, at certain times. So getting that visibility across those channels is important, and then being able to track that, is something that our system helps do to give them some, business intelligence and help them grow. So I'll walk you through a quick case study. Here's a client that, actually was using QuickBooks and using a lot of manual spreadsheets to manage the website that they build out on their own. Along with mom, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is that if they don't have an e-commerce site and if they're looking to get online for the first time, we actually have an automated solution called SiteLink, which gives them, the products, the customers, the promotions, the shipping, all the synchronization of the data. And I'll show you that just a second. But this customer here, Pulse TV, is who I'm going to talk about in the case study. And they actually use both of our systems, the MOM for the back office management and SiteLink for the e-commerce solution. So, about their business, they are a catalog, TV promotions, and infomercial client of ours. So they basically they have a lot of as seen on TV, smaller items, things of that nature. They reinvented themselves into being, 100% web-based as opposed to being a phone call center. It's funny, they are moms selling to moms, so they have a lot of niche, kitchen-y gadget type of things. They themselves brag that they only hire, part-time moms to help out with the local economy out there in outside of Chicago where they are. They have service and fulfillment challenges that they were looking to solve. So they had orders coming from multiple websites. They needed to manage, where they were coming from, bringing them down in an automated process. Managing the inventory and segregating the inventory across those different channels was very difficult. And the order visibility and fulfillment bottlenecks were becoming a headache. They didn't really know how to prioritize the orders and get, just for instance, overnight orders out the door first. They had lots of calls related to the product characteristics and how to use them. So they wanted, a good chunk was to eliminate customer service calls and become a little more efficient, and spending more time actually getting the product out the door as opposed to explaining, what the product does or how to sell it to their customers. So what they did is, you can see on the right is a screenshot of their site. We helped them create the template of the site, and then they modified, the menu bars and selection of the products on the right. So with each product, almost every product, you can go into the detail page and get a little YouTube video clip. So instead of selling a record player, online, showing a picture of a record sitting inside a box, they actually play a, in this case, a 2-minute video to explain how it works, how to turn it on, how to speed it up, how to slow it down if they wanted to, modify and use all the options in there. And it's just the regular employees. This happens to be the owner on the left and her IT director on the right, and they have a little production video room. So, looking at that, this is one of the nuances that our tool, our software is able to provide, is having these fields, these certain little, areas in the system where you can actually create a YouTube video, plug in the URL link for it into our system, and in the case of SiteLink, it actually can publish it up to the web. So in the product detail page, as a consumer is looking at the product, they can actually look at the link right below it and have it automatically open up into a YouTube video explaining how it's used. They said that their growth, with some of the YouTube videos implementing, MOM to be able to automatically download the orders from the web, building out some remarketing tools to drive more web traffic. So instead of, they were sending out marketing materials saying, I understand you called and you ordered, this product. I'd like to send you to the website to look at some other items that we have and see if you might be interested. And they provide detailed product links to bring the customer to the site to that specific product, seeing the video. And then once they're on the site, then you know that they're going to fish around, look at some other products, and see what they might be interested in purchasing. So these are some of the tools and foundations that the MOM system is there for, that can help our customers streamline, reduce some of the manual labor work, do things that are important to growing revenue as opposed to maintaining basic business practices. Our software itself, as far as the features go, we are fully PCI compliant. So any of your merchants that might be entering a credit card number in for the consumers or importing credit cards from a website, it is fully PCI compliant. So there's no worry about storing the credit cards for a short period of time, at least to do some refunds or reordering a product. We do have credit card purge features, all compliant, with the PCI standards. So from a need to know basis, if they wanted to only store credit cards for a rolling 30 days or 60 days, they could set up the system in a way that it will purge everything older than X days. So say they had to set to 90 days, it could purge everything older than that. And then going forward, any new order entered into the system, if it reached that 30-day mark, it would automatically get prompted to void that credit card out and, just store it the last 4 digits for reporting purposes. Order management is one of the key features, importing the order from a source, usually from an e-commerce website, and picking, packing, shipping, doing all of the preparation to actually get the product out the door is one of the main features, of our system. And tying in with that is the inventory management. It even goes as far as multi-warehouse. If they have a California and a New Jersey warehouse and somebody orders the product from Pennsylvania, it would automatically know that the product, it would automatically know to use the product from, I see I wasn't sharing my screen, so somebody just who's attentive, thank God, just told me to show my screen. So I apologize if anyone hasn't seen any of that. I can share the deck with anyone, after the webinar, so just wanted to let you know. Inventory, so we have multi-warehouse, there's dropship, including the Amazon FBA that I mentioned earlier. E-commerce integration, there is auto import with fraud controls. So there's certain fraud controls that are controlled on the credit card side, whether or not the address matches the ship to address of the order to the bill to of the credit card. But then you also have some things like whether it's the first time somebody ordered, or if the order exceeds the average ticket of, if your average ticket is $100 and they got an order in for $1,000, then they could put it, they could put that order on hold for review so that they could either call the customer, validate that it's legitimate, or, process the order through, or cancel it if it's not appropriate. From a customer management standpoint, knowing all of the prior orders that the customer, placed with you, knowing the history of when they called in, what they talked about, if they had any issues that they might have complained about, you'd be able to see all that information in there and know what action to take from there. Direct marketing, I kind of mentioned the email campaigns, the target marketing that they can do, reaching out. There is the application, the API programming interface, which is, if you needed to write any custom utilities that were not pre-built into the system, you'd be able to take a look at that, and help the customer, with some billable hours to import orders or update inventory, whatever it might be. There's some functions that you're able to access and update the database, if they needed something a little more high level than what might be in there already. QuickBooks, I'll show that in a second, but obviously the integration of QuickBooks is another key feature that I want to highlight here. So when it comes to the warehouse, the pick, pack, ship, this is the screen up top, the order processing that the client would typically run to, and it will show how many orders they've received. They'd be up top in the pick ticket, so it's the first item that is actionable. You'd print a stack of pick tickets, be able to go through the warehouse, pick up all the items that need to go out the door. Then it would go through the stages of printing a packing slip, which could be stuck into the box, down to extra box labels. If you had an item that packs in 2 different boxes, it would automatically know to print a second box label at that stage. And then, further down the list, if it's drop ship, it would upload it to the drop ship supplier, or if those prior steps were already completed, then you could just do the shipping and invoicing, which are the final 2 stages. Shipping stage basically uploads all the packages that were sent out to the different carriers, so they know what what items to expect to be picking up at a later time. And an invoice, obviously, either that can also go in a box or be mailed out separately. Down below, there's actually a different feature which can be used instead of the batch processing. So just instead of printing every order that's in the stage ready to go, they could actually segment it and assign certain packages to certain people in the warehouse. So if they had multiple packers they could assign a packer to pack up 3 boxes out of the 6, and then assign the other 3 orders to another person in the warehouse and have them pack and ship those orders. Down below, you'll see that there's actually a feature for scan and pack. So some of the guys that are selling auto parts or anything, small, intricate little parts, even some of the clothing people with a size color, you can make sure that the packer is scanning the item before it goes into the box and conceptually. So on the screen, they'd be prompted, and it would tell them, okay, this box with these 3 items are going in, and until they scan the correct SKU number, it wouldn't push it over into the right-hand side and actually confirm the box that had been shipped. This just helps for some accuracy, making sure that the products get out the door, in the right size, color, or the right, quantity, as the consumer wanted. As far as the inventory goes, this is extremely flexible, and there's a lot of options on this page. But from a basic standpoint, they can manage, once they configure the product, they could set it up as a service item where it would not be a physical product being shipped out the door, but it might just be like an embroidery fee for clothing. They could set up a service item called embroidery and, set up a basic, starting retail selling price for it. They could set up either breakout or composite items, and these both are essentially the same, where you are making a parent product out of sub-products. So a bicycle, for instance, if I made a bicycle as a breakout, then the consumer would be able to know that they bought a bicycle and it consisted of a frame, 2 wheels, a horn, and a handlebar. If it's a composite item, they wouldn't see that those components were made up to make the bike. They would just know that they bought a bike, and the merchant would then know that in order to ship out that bike, they have to put 2 wheels, a frame, a horn, and the handlebar together before they ship it out. So breakout and composite are kind of the same thing in putting kits together, but one shows the consumer what parts were used to make the item, the other doesn't. So the merchant can decide which they'd want to use, or a combination of the two, in order to make make that work the best. There are some tax status classes here. So from a national, state, county, and zip, they could set up 4 different levels and tax their products in different categories based on some of the tax rules. So by default, in the MOM system, you can set up, New Jersey to be an 8% sales tax rate. But for this product, you might have a 2% surcharge, and they could then set up a tax class of B or C or D or E with a sub rate, whether it's higher or lower than the standard, rate is up to the merchant, how to configure that based on the tax laws for that state and county and zip. But we do have those multiple drop downs to be able to accommodate that. As far as the weight goes, or the packaging, they could do they could flag the item so it packs in 2 boxes, or it packs 2 items in a box. So if they order a quantity of 4, they would know it should only print 2 labels, or vice versa. If item packs in 2 boxes and they ordered 4, they would print up 8 labels automatically. These are some of the ways that they can put these settings in the system and help automate and streamline the warehouse piece, so they don't need to wait for the warehouse guys to make some decisions. The paperwork would print out automatically, prompting them to do certain things a certain way. The breakout and composites also can be used for gift packages. So there's a lot of coffee, wine and beverage companies, obviously the food, the fruits, that'll do gift packages, and they'll send out and set up an item as a breakout. Again, whether or not you want to show what the components were or not, breakout or composite, but they'll use those to create these gift bundles and have, a wine basket of the month club where they could stick a couple pieces of cheese in with the wine, and send that out as a gift package. Let's see here. So from a content standpoint, each of those items will have a e-commerce tab, and you can see here the Amazon and eBay actually will have their own SKU fields. They'll have their own description fields. So you can either use the basic product description, price, quantity available, or you can set up a different items here. So your Amazon SKU might be different than the main mom SKU. You can designate that there. If it shows you how many you have available for sale. So in this case, I have 2 units available for sale. But on Amazon, maybe I only want to list that I have 1 in stock. So you can change that here so that you don't list that you have 2 in stock in all of your sources. Maybe you only list 1 in stock in each. So that this way, if somebody only orders, somebody orders 2 here, 1 here, your merchant wouldn't run out of inventory. So you'd be able to set up these different, and this is kind of where you can allocate the inventory to the different channels. From a pricing standpoint, they can also price it lower or higher on the different channels by going into that channel drop-down and setting the price, at the level that they'd wish. From a purchasing standpoint and a supplier reordering point, they can also set up multiple levels so that if they order quantity of 1, the unit price, is X. If they order quantity of 2, the unit price is X minus 2. So they can set up those discounts that the supplier is going to give to them. Even if it is a percentage, they could put in, if I buy 1, it's $10. And then they could put in the discount column, if the quantity is 3, they could put a 10% discount. Maybe the supplier gives a discount, if they order more than 3 or 10. Whatever the trigger is, they could add that here so that when they're reordering, they'll know what their anticipated unit cost is. That may modify. The supplier may, send them an invoice and change the unit price later, and that's okay. When you're receiving the inventory in MOM, even though you thought the unit cost was going to be X, if it is adjusted when you receive the actual product, you can change that unit cost from what you anticipated it to be to the actual, whether it's higher or lower. And then down the bottom, there's also some special pricing situations where you might want to give a customer or a group of customers a discount based on, wholesale versus retail customer, based on, discount of, July discount, month. You can see that even if it's a short-term promotion, you can put a start and end date so that the promotion would only kick in during that time period. And when that time period ends, the discount would expire. They can also get a quantity or price discount or anything. If the order total is, if you spend more than $100, then you can get 10% off. Those different type of qualifiers can all be set up down there, on the bottom. And on the left-hand side, you designate what the discount price would be, whether it has to do with the percentage or the unit, the selling price itself, or on the right-hand side, then that's where you can set up what the triggers are going to be. Is it a customer level trigger? Is it an order level trigger? Synchronization with e-commerce. So, you can see in the top left, we do some basics with the Amazon download orders, upload that it's shipped, synchronize the amount of product, amount of inventory for each of the products, and then publish new products. But if you look on the right, there is the site link publish screen, which it covers a lot of more areas, so not just the products, not just transferring what's in stock or out or the discontinued items, but it also does the customer and order state information, sales tax rates if you have some custom rates, set up for different products or different classification codes based on the customer. That will all publish up and calculate exactly the same way in SiteLink as it does in MOM without any customization. Credit card accounts, syncing up what the Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover numbers are. That can be all linked together. The shipping methods would be mapped and identical here if you did publish it from MOM up to the web. So this way, whatever percentage discounts UPS gives your merchant, for example, they'd either be able to pass that along or keep that margin themselves. And here's where they would synchronize that data between the two systems. So Amazon actually mentioned that in one of the prior screens, where you can handle the content descriptions, pricing, and quantity available across these different channels, which makes it very helpful. Target marketing, here's kind of a drill down into what I was mentioning earlier. You can use our list management tool, which essentially helps you include names based on criteria, whether it's based on who bought what, when, or if it's based on demographic, location, like I want to just send a mailing to my Georgia clients. I want to send an email to anyone with a date of last activity greater than 6 months to try to re-engage them. All of that data is right at their hands and something where they can easily generate lists for these target marketing opportunities. And then, once they include the names that they want to include, they could then exclude customers. So, if I were to include customers that bought something from January to June, I want to only see them if the salesperson ID of who entered the order was John, and only if it was for these certain stock items. So you could filter it down a couple different ways, and you could even exclude a product number of, something specific as well. So here I had 600, I had nearly 700 clients in the list. I excluded 85 of them that had a certain product number in there, and then I also excluded certain states. So in, Florida, I had 51 customers that bought a certain product that I want to now send, a retargeting, email campaign to. So as far as the QuickBooks integration goes, you can see in the very top, I have an order for $628 that I replicated on the QuickBooks side. So the actual line items, the quantity ordered, the amount, they were sold for, along with the tax and shipping does get passed down. So 628.16 matches the two. Or on the very bottom, there is the general ledger report. So if I'm not doing transactional and I don't want to replicate the invoice in QuickBooks and I just want to do my financials from QuickBooks, then they could do the GL posting. If the customer does it every day, great. If they do it every week, great. Because even if they do it on a weekly basis, we still publish the daily activity. So they'll see individual postings for accounts payable for every day of the week that they have that information. Same thing, inventory and sales, and straight on down the list. So to recap, generally, we want to help your clients expose their products to an e-commerce channel if they're not already there. It'd be a shame, if you have a lot of our clients grow from these small retail shops or 2 retail shops where they just have a storefront, and they start, dipping online, putting their products into even Amazon, eBay, getting some, marketing exposure there, and they grow their revenue, exponentially that way alone. Even if they only trickle in a few orders from the e-commerce sites, it's another channel where they can, increase the amount of products going out the door. Manage the inventory across those channels. If they have a retail store especially, and they don't want to outsell, the retail store, maybe they have 10 products in inventory. They could publish that they only have 2 in stock to an e-commerce channel. So while they're either dipping in on one of those, channels, trying it for the first time, or if they've been using it, you only want to allocate a portion of the inventory to be online and keep the rest focused for people that walk in the door that need it, on an emergency basis type of thing. We want you to try to identify some clients that might be outgrowing the order management capabilities of QuickBooks. That either they're struggling or you might be struggling, helping them with some manual spreadsheets to accomplish some of these tasks. This is really where Mom can help automate a good chunk of what they're trying to accomplish. And we like to help be there for you and ultimately, for the merchant. We would help implement a system that better manages the orders, the inventory workflow, warehouse, and we want to reduce the time that you spend assisting them for the day-to-day tasks. We don't want you to lose clients, but we want you to lose the annoying day-to-day type of activities that you might be doing with these clients, so that you can simplify things and help them focus on things to grow, as opposed to help them focus on the day-to-day, maintain their daily routine. Everyone needs to get in more automated fashion, helping themselves, run a little more efficiently. We do also have referral fees. That's something I didn't talk about earlier, but any of the systems that do sign on for the MOM software, we do have referral contracts, which there's no minimums, no commitments. But when the first deal goes through, then we can get you a referral agreement where you would get 10% of that initial system fee, or the first year if they were paying a recurring monthly fee. We'd be able to get you the full, 10% of that first full year worth of that contract. So I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm going to put you guys on hold for 2 seconds and review, because I'll have to scroll through, unfortunately, since I didn't show my screens in the beginning, I might have a few questions that I'll have to weed out from there, and I'll be right back in 2 seconds. Also, if you need, on the right-hand side, on the bottom right, just go into that question section, type in anything you might have, a question to ask, and I'd be happy to get to that. So I see one question in there, relating to our software and how to get it up and running. Essentially, if you have somebody who's interested in using MOM, or that you feel should be interested in using MOM based on it, helping their business a little bit, what you would do is basically identify who the client is. You and I can jump on a call. We can kind of talk through whether or not it's a fit, get you comfortable with it. Passing the referral over, and then we can kind of go from there. Whether or not, if you want to be as involved as you wish to be on that, or as little involved as you wish to be on that, is fine with us. We have some people giving referrals going both ways. Some are very deeply involved, some are not, and we'd be happy to go either way. So once we get past that point, we would then get the client, to register for a demo. They would see a little more in depth of how it works. If they sign on board, after some discussions with the sales team, generally we give 15 hours of implementation time to clients. We also have an implementation team help guide them through the setup and configuration of all the different nuances of the system. So from a pricing standpoint, is one of the other questions is, how is the MOM system priced? Typically, it's always been an upfront fee, and then they pay 15% of that annually. But we do have 2 new pricing plans that I'm only able to publish to the ProAdvisors. Coming from the sales team, they are now offering some lower-end monthly fees, typically in between the $200 and $500 range, that will cover getting somebody up and running, getting them a full copy of the system, and offering them just so that they don't have to be limited to dumping capital up front to get the software. This way they can kind of get their feet wet, get into a monthly system. And in those cases, they wouldn't pay the annual support fee. The support would automatically be included if they're paying the monthly fee. So I think that's all the questions that I have. If there are any, I'll wait for 2 more seconds and put that through. What I'm going to do, since the first few slides were not moving through, the recording didn't cover, since I didn't share the screen, I didn't get that sent through. So what I'm going to do is send you guys a copy of the PowerPoint deck. I'll convert it to PDF so that it's a smaller file, and I'll email that out to all of you that attended. So I apologize for that glitch in the beginning, but I do thank you for your time for attending. Look forward from an email from me. If you do have a client you think that might be interested, I think the fact that you've attended, you might have somebody already in that space that might be interested in exploring what we could do for them. So I'd be happy to jump on a call with you first, see what you think is a fit, and then if you want to get the client introduced, we will go from there. So thank you again for attending, and have a great day.